Greetings everyone, welcome to Music is a Journey. I'm Peter. It is time to talk about Princess Princess. By my reckoning, the girls band boom scene in Japan would have looked a lot differently by the early 90s had it not been for the success of Princess Princess. Yes, the girls band boom scene started as late as the late 70s, as I discussed in my previous video where I talked about the punk scene, all-girls punk scene in Japan. And previously, in an earlier video, I talked about the all-girls metal scene. But we saw with the punk bands, most of them released a couple of EPs before breaking up and disappearing. Some of them lasted a few more years. A lot of the metal bands, they released a single, a demo, and very few of them managed an EP before again they disappeared. But from around 1989 and onwards, there was a period of about 5 years where there were just so many all-girl bands in Japan who were releasing 3-4 albums before the scene finally ran its course. And I think that was really due to the success of Princess Princess, which they achieved in 1988 and 89. That's when the band really hit the scene big. But let's take a look at that a little bit later. For now, let's go back to the beginning of the band's history. The band actually begins back in 1983 when the TDK record company hit upon the idea to combine two concepts into one. You see, in the early 1980s, the most successful female artists in Japan, or at least most of the successful ones anyway, were young teen idol types. Teenage girl up there singing some songs about love and fancying some boy to pre-written songs and pre-written music and and just have a cute smiling face on the album cover. That was doing very well. However, as mentioned, the all-girls band scene was also happening, with probably starting with girls back in 1977 and then gaining more ground with some of the underground scenes in the punk and new wave area such as Zelda, Tango Europa, Mizutama Shobodan, the Polka Dot Fire Brigade, and several others. So I guess TDK thought, why not put together a girls' idol rock band? So TDK held an audition in February of 1983, and it was open to girls between the ages of 15 and 18. There were a total of 1,400 people auditioning, and the final cut went to the 5 winners: Okui Kaori for vocals and bass guitar, Nakayama Kanako for lead guitar as well as backing vocals, chorus vocals, Konno Tomoko on keyboards and also backing vocals, Watanabe Atsuko on rhythm guitar and backing vocals, and Tomita Kyoko on drums and backing vocals, chorus vocals. I have read from one source, it said that they spent the next year rehearsing their material and kind of getting their act together, so to speak. However, the Wikipedia article in Japanese says that they played their first live performance in May of 1983. So that's only 3 months after their formation. The original name of the band was Akasaka Komachi, Akasaka being the area in Tokyo where TDK Records was located, and the Komachi part being added so that there would be 4 kanji to the name. In Japan, having a set of 4 kanji is as kind of a special meaning or cool sound to it. So the band was named Akasaka Komachi. Part of the job, though, however, was not just playing the music, but also being idols. They made their first television appearance around 1984, early 1984, and then they did a lot of things like TV commercials and photo shoots and interviews with magazines, and just generally being promoted as cute teenage girls who played in a rock band. During the early period of the Akasaka Komachi days, there was one small change in the band. Vocalist Kaori, who was also playing bass guitar, swapped instruments with Atsuko, who was playing rhythm guitar. So Atsuko took over the bass, Kaori took over the rhythm guitar. And the band eventually grew tired of the idol role that they had. Photo shoots and TV commercials and all that. They wanted to concentrate more on the music. So by 1985, they made the decision to leave TDK Records and move on to a new management company called Ongakuza. With Ongakuza, they changed their name from Akasaka Komachi to Julian Mama. Kind of a strange choice, but apparently the story goes that a male musician in one band gave a kitten to one of the members of Princess, or Julian Mama in this case, and the kitten's name was Julian. So they named the band Julian Mama. During the time that they operated under the name Julian Mama, they did not release any new music. But by 1986, they were ready with some new songs, and they decided that a name change was going to be necessary one more time. They wanted something that was catchy and easy to remember. And then somebody suggested the title of an old 1960 single by American singer-songwriter Johnny Tillotson. That song was called Princess. It seems the band unanimously agreed to the new name, and so the EP was released under the name of Princess. The EP's title was Kiss de Hanzai, which was translated to Kiss de Crime for the title track. Now, there is a video for this, and I've watched it and listened to the song. I feel it still sounds very similar to the Akasaka Komachi days. And the video looks like the five girls are in some subterranean chamber and just having a good time swinging their instruments around and dancing and singing. It still has that cute idol girl group with instruments feel to it rather than a serious rock band. However, that would change. The band decided then that they would once more change management companies, and they auditioned for Shinko Music. Now, during the audition, apparently the judges were not particularly impressed with the band and didn't agree to sign them. As well, Ongakuza was also not really keen on giving up on their new band, who had, of course, just released an EP and was gaining some attention for it. As well, I also read that the president of Shinko Music just didn't like the idea of managing an all-girls band. So anyway, they were not picked up by Shinko Music right away. However, a woman working for the company named Ichimura Emiko, she had seen the band perform live before and she felt they had potential to make it. So she convinced her boss that Shinko Music should take on Princess. And so they did. And Ichimura Emiko became the band's manager. In April of 1987, the band released their first single under the new management. It was called Koi no Balance, which means the balance of love. The music was written by guitarist Nakayama Kanako, and the lyrics were written by an outside writer named Suzuki Kisaburo, who was a famous songwriter in Japan. The band agreed after that they would not release any material that wasn't written exclusively by the five members of the band. Well, any combination of the five anyway. They released their debut album, Teleportation, in 1987, and it went to number 8 on the charts. I find this to be a very enjoyable album to listen to. This is really the sound that is Princess, and where they would go from here. This is a big step from the old Akasaka Komachi days, or even that Kiss de Crime song from the EP. It really does sound like the band, although of course at a very young age here. In 1987, all of the members were around 20, 21, 22 years old. Also, the production quality on this is a little bit thin in sound, but nevertheless, the songwriting and the music quality is really, really good. Probably a lot of thanks can go to their producer, Sasaji Masanori, who was a famous producer and worked with a lot of other bands there during the 80s and early 90s. And actually, he stuck with the band, I think, if not through all of their discography, at least through most of the albums. I didn't check all of them. Anyway, songs to talk about here. The opening track, Girls' Night. It has a really cool opening that sounds almost like an 80s prog band album is starting up there. Then we get this almost dissonant, really thin rocking guitar sound before the band comes in with keyboards and everything. It's a pretty cool song, though. There's another song on here, I think it was called You Are My Starship, which I would say I almost don't like, except for during the chorus. There are these like 70s, like disco space rock keyboard sound that come in that actually makes me interested in the song. I mean, from the beginning of it, it's just like, wow, that's not my thing. But I actually have grown to like the song quite a bit, maybe because of those keyboards there. There's another song on here called Hypnotized, which is more of a funky type song, but it's quite sensual. And there's one part, like before the guitar solo starts, where they actually do like a vocal rhythm of gasps and sighs alternating. And then this kind of a little bit sexy guitar solo comes in. There are a number of other tracks on here too. The other day, I went through all of the albums and I decided if I loved the song or if I liked it enough that I could enjoy listening to it, I would put it on a playlist. And if I thought the song was good, but not something I really need to go back to so soon, or if in the rare case there was a song that just really I didn't need to hear, I didn't put them on a playlist. I ended up selecting 8 songs from this album to go on that playlist, which really surprised me. I knew I liked the album more than I thought I would. I didn't think I liked it that much, but I do. In 1988, they released their 3rd single called My Will, and that song was featured in a sports commercial, and their 4th single, 19 Growing Up, was also featured in a commercial. Then they released their 2nd album called Here We Are, and it also went to number 8 on the Oricon album charts. To attest to the band's rapidly rising popularity, in April, they were going to have a concert at a popular venue in Shibuya, in Tokyo. The concert tickets sold out within 2 hours of going on sale. And there's an interesting anecdote about that where their manager Emiko heard about the ticket sales and it brought her to tears. And the band was wondering like, wow, are the ticket sales that abysmal that you're crying? He said, no, you girls all sold out in 2 hours. Within just a year of them joining Shinko Music and going under Emiko's management, the band had rapidly climbed to success. So this album, their 2nd album, I actually had a copy of this many, many years ago. An ex-girlfriend gave it to me. And of course I liked it, but starting to date somebody else who is now my wife, I thought I should really probably let go of the things that the ex gave me, and I sold off this CD. So I had to buy it used again recently. I'm not really keen on the yellowing of the plastic here, but anyway, it was pretty cheap. So this album opens with that 19 Growing Up, and that is a really good pop rocker. Some good strong rock guitar, but of course lots of pop keyboards in there. And there are quite a few tracks on here that I liked. I think I singled out 5 or 6 from this album. One of them, which is called Romancing Blue, again has a nice little bit of an instrumental intro that sounds like they're setting up the song really nicely. They do those instrumental intros on a lot of the albums, and I think they're quite good. My Will is on here, and of course, there's one song on here called Jodan Janai, which means it's not a joke. And it's got some really good rock and roll guitar. It's got harmonica, and Kaori, the singer of Kaori, is putting in some really good rock and roll screams in that song. Overall, it is a pretty cool album. Definitely an improvement in the warmth and depth of the production. Whereas the previous album had a quite trebly, tinny sound to it, this one here, once you switch from that album to this one, you just feel the bass and the low end. It fills out really nicely. That's Here We Are from 1988, early 1988. Still in 1988, in November, they released their 3rd album here called Let's Get Crazy. And this album went to number 2 on the albums charts, we had the great single, the opening track, Get Crazy. And another track on here, simply entitled M, was the B-side to a single I'll talk about shortly. And that has become one of the band's most well-known songs. This album, actually, this was my introduction to the band way back in 1996 in autumn when I decided to start studying Japanese. I went to the foreign language section at my local library and found a copy of this CD. This is a really good rock album, hard rock album. Some of the songs are kind of blues based with some harmonica. Some of the songs just have some great rockin' riffs. And instead of just having pop synthesizer for every song, they actually include some organ in some of the songs to give it more of a heavier sound, which I really like. There's one song on here called Hechara. Actually, I don't even know what that means, but it is a little bit on the crazy side. Like, it's a fast-paced song. Kaori is singing very fast, and during the instrumental sections, the band is almost going off the rails. And then finally, at the end, everybody's just playing something, and it just sounds really crazy. And then finally, Kaori says, like, "Nanja korea," which means, like, what the heck is this? Cool track. And you know, when I went over this the other day, I thought there's probably going to be about 2 tracks that I don't need to put on the playlist. But when I listened to them again, I thought, nope. All of the tracks from this album went on that playlist. All of them. Now, it is actually not my favorite album by the band, simply because even though I like all of the tracks, there are some from other albums that I just like more, even if I don't like all of the songs on those other albums. But this is definitely a top 3 Princess album for me. And if you just want to hear good blues rock, hard rock, even a little bit heavy rock in some places, you know, like early 70s heavy rock type of thing, don't expect Black Sabbath or anything like that, but a little bit more like the kind of Deep Purple side slightly. Anyway, this is a good album to get if you can find it. There was also another version that had like a paper, like a kind of like a digipack, but it folds out. And I'm thinking if I can find it, I might want to try to get it just for the novelty of having that packaging. So that's Let's Get Crazy from November 1988. In January of 1989, Princess became the first all-girls band to play at the famous Budokan venue in Tokyo. You know, a lot of Western bands recorded live albums there in the 1970s. So yeah, that was a big step for the band. Then in April of 1989, they released their 7th single, a song called Diamonds, which went to #1 on the singles charts, the Oricon singles charts. This also was the single that was backed with the aforementioned ballad M. From this point on, the band would release 5 consecutive singles that went to #1. And this is the interesting point here that I think I alluded to at the beginning. 1989 was just such a big year for the band. #1 single, we're going to hear soon, their first #1 album, first female band at the Budokan Theater. And again, coincidentally or not, by 1989, a lot of all-female bands who'd been, you know, playing for the last few years and not released anything other than maybe a demo or something or a cassette, suddenly they were getting record contracts. And from 89, 90, 91, all these new all-female band albums were coming out. So this is their 4th album called Lovers, and this one is their first album to go to #1 on the charts. What do we have here anyway? Oh, they've got some, you know, send away thing, and it looks like we've got all the lyrics inside here printed in really, really small. But I wanted to get this version because this was a limited edition early version that came with a little snap thing in here with an additional photo booklet, and it's on really like firm glossy paper. It's almost like postcards. It's very hard to turn, but there were photos of all the band members, and I don't know if those are song lyrics perhaps written next to their photos. It looks like it, yeah, because This one says Rain at the top, and that is my favorite song on the album and one of my favorite Princess songs. So yeah, the CD is actually in this little sleeve here too. Strangely though, as much as I loved Get Crazy or Let's Get Crazy, Lovers does not appeal to me as much. Going over the album, I feel a lot of the kind of signature Princess pop rock sounds and songs are on here. There are some ballads which are, they're okay, but I mean, obviously they're good songs because they were singles and they did well, but it's not really to my taste. However, there are 4 songs on here I picked, and one of them, Rain, is just such a cool, it's more like a classic rock song. The intro actually sounds a lot like the intro to a song called Heartless World by a band called Tease, who released that song in the early 1980s. It's just a great rockin' song with electric guitar clean, acoustic guitar, rockin' guitar, organ sound, and just more of a serious tone rather than what we're used to hearing with the more poppy type sounds. Now, I don't remember exactly what the other 3 songs were, and looking at the back now, I can't recall either, but they're the 4 songs that I picked out for my playlist just coincidentally happen to be the 4 songs that actually rock. The rest of the songs are more pop and, as I said, a couple of ballads. So not a favorite album of mine, but the songs that I like on here, I really like, especially Rain. That would be a top 10 song for me for sure. 1990, and the band released their 5th album, a self-titled album, and it goes to number 1. It also stays in the number 1 position on the charts for 5 weeks. Again, produced by Sasaji Masanori, the band's regular producer, as I've said. And there is a single here called Julian, which went to number 1. It was released in November. Now, I have to say, Julian is the one song on the album that I really don't feel like listening to, even though it is actually a very lovely, kind of like late 70s, easy, late night, almost ballad type. Not really a ballad. We've got some trumpets in there. We've got a very mellow song with some piano. And the first couple of times hearing it, it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. But I think I've just grown tired of listening to it. However, probably this is my favorite album by the band. What I like about it is that they have put in more variety. We have the pop synthesizer, yes. We're also getting more piano. We're getting some organ. We got some rockin' out songs with brass and saxophone in there, really fun songs. We've got some bluesy type songs, songs featuring acoustic guitar, songs with some great keyboard riffs and guitar riffs. We've even got one called Nigero, which means run away. Which is a very tension-filled song and features a vocoder guitar solo, which is pretty cool. I think there are only, out of all the bands I've listened to from this period, there are only 2 songs that feature a vocoder solo in the song. One song on here called Highway Star, which is not a cover of Deep Purple, is probably one of my top 5 songs. I just really love that song. The final track, 1, is just not quite a ballad, but it is a slower tempo song, but it does feature some really beautiful orchestration in. There's a part like where Kaori just stops, the rest of the band stops, and the orchestra plays through the main melody, and it has some fills and builds. There's some oboe in there, there's some harp. It sounds really, really beautiful, and then the band comes in to close up the song and finishes again with just Kaori on the orchestra. Beautiful, beautiful song. The opening track, Rock Me, was also, I don't remember if it was a single or a B-side, but probably a single. Yeah, just overall a really great, great album. There's one song in here that is actually sung by Kanako, the guitarist, and another song sung by Tomoko, the keyboard player. So we're getting some good variety in here. Yeah, I would say, like, if you want your more hard rockin' type band, go for the Let's Get Crazy album. But if you just want to hear some good, almost like 70s classic rock influenced rock from, 1990, did I say? This is a great album to start with. And I bought this used back around 97 or so, and I've kept it ever since. This is my used copy from back then. So that is Princess Princess's 5th album, self-titled, from 1990. 1991, and we get their 6th album, Dolls in Action. Also, this album goes to number 1, and there is a non-album single on there called Kiss, a non-album single called Kiss, which goes to number 1. This album falls in between 2 of my favorite albums, and I don't know why I never really picked this up before, but it's not as good as either album, the one that comes before or after, but it opens so wonderfully. Let me first show you the inside. So the booklet is this lovely, soft, textured paper. The dolls are actually dolls made of the 5 members, which is pretty cool. And then inside we get, here are the dolls. Really looks like the band. Very cool. And then we get a photo of like each member and their accompanying doll inside here. There's the whole band set out with other toys. There we go. Watanabe Atsuko, the bass player. And here we go, the drummer. Tomita Kyoko. And yeah, all right. Yeah, really, really nice texture to this paper here. Okay, so Dolls in Action. As I said, it opens up really wonderfully. There's a song, I think it's simply called Dear, and it is just one acoustic guitar, and Kaori starts off singing. I'll bet that it's Kanako who joins in, and finally Tomoko, so we get 3-part vocals for the 3rd verse coming through, verse and chorus, and it's really a beautiful track. When I heard that, I thought, man, why don't they do more of this kind of thing? Sounds great. And the next track after that, I can't remember, it's in Japanese and the text is really small now, but it's a really good follow-up to that. Just the way the song, one song ends and the next one starts, it's just like a perfect beginning of the next song. It is more like clean electric guitar and piano, bass, and drums. Just a really lovely one. I guess it would be a top 10 song for me as well. I really love that one. After that, I find the album kind of goes up and down. The 3rd track, Jungle Princess, fun song with a pretty good rock and guitar riff, but you know, there's that jungle theme with different percussion and drums and some people going boom, ba, boom, shakalaka, like this, and I guess it's a fun song. We've got some saxophone in there too, I think. I don't remember all the tracks now, but there's one here called 7 Years After, which was a single, and that one is actually a really, really good song. Again, a rock song with more of a serious tone to it, but maybe still pop rock, but not the fun pop rock type. And there's another song on here which is called, I think it was like the Desert Sun. Is the translation, or Hot as the Desert Sun. That's a really cool one. A great guitar riff at the beginning, saxophone in the song, and then also Kanako sings lead on a song on here as well, which has a really interesting feel to it. Overall, it is a decent album, and I think I pulled off 6 tracks from this, 6 or 8 tracks from this one here. But definitely those first 2 tracks are just such winners that it feels like the rest of the album, no matter how good some of the songs are, just can't live up to that opening. But good stuff. (1992), and they release a compilation called Singles 1987 to 1992, and it was their 4th album to go to number 1 on the album charts. It also sold over 1 million copies. I actually almost thought I don't really need to get a compilation of singles. However, there are See, the band released about 21 singles accompanied with B-sides over the course of their career, and I checked what those songs were. There are about 14 songs that are non-album tracks. So maybe to get this compilation might not be a bad idea. At least I think there are 7 or 8 songs I would get, even though I have to admit, it's not the singles that I'm usually interested in. It's the deep cuts on the albums that I find to be the ones that I enjoy the most in most cases. That was followed up with Beep Beep, their 7th album, and this is the one. So I actually bought this at a flea market in Vancouver for something like $2 back around 1998. But I found it actually came with a slipcase like this, and it's kind of fun because Kaori here is holding a black marker, and she, draws on her bandmates' faces there, and then she comes along with a cloth and wipes their faces clean as you spin this little thing around. All right, so let's see here. This was their 5th album to go to #1 on the albums charts. It was also their last album to go to #1. So we had 5 consecutive albums at #1, 5 consecutive singles hitting #1. This is probably it would be my top 2 or top 3 albums. In a way, I'd put it as a top 2 along with the self-titled album. It's not an album where I like all the songs like I did with Let's Get Crazy, but there's, again, really good variety on here. The opening track, Guitar Man, just has this great, almost progressive beginning, goes into a really soulful, bluesy lead guitar bit, and then goes into a great 80s hair metal type guitar riff before the song kicks in. A cool guitar solo, an interesting little piano break with an odd time signature, giving it that proggy feel again. There's another song, the title track, again has that instrumental beginning that once again sounds like a prog band in the 80s doing something. That song actually has a really cool guitar riff and lots of just interesting things happening in that song. One of my favorite tracks is the closing track, Voices, which is just this really beautiful, slower song, but with more of it's not a ballad. It's like watching the clouds drifting off into the purple sunset, and there's references to the water here is so delicious. I really want to be in this place. I have nothing to fear from now on, or something like this. Just, I don't know, more spiritual type lyrics connected with nature, which I really like. There also are some great songs in here. Regret, which has a really good vocal harmony type chorus. Power, which is also a really good pop rock song. And of course there's some more bluesy, some featuring saxophone again. And some of the songs which are kind of okay, not super cool, but I think it's just an album that has got really good variety on it, and the songs that I like on here, I really, really like. So that is Beep Beep from 1982. (1983) and the band releases Majestic. What happened with the album covers? We have a small group shot in black and white, and just this, what do you call this, tape where you can punch in the letters of whatever it is you want to type out. I forget what that stuff is called. I originally thought I probably don't need this album. I don't need to complete the discography. But when I heard the opening track on here, which is written in kanji on the back and is really small, so I'm sorry I can't read it now, but it's just, it has a really great opening sound to it. Just a slower rock song, but I don't know, just has this meaningful feel to it. I really liked it, and probably a top 10 song for me, maybe. I think so. After that, Bird's Eye View starts with a slower intro, a little bit mysterious. You feel like, okay, where are they going to go with this? But then it goes into this upbeat, I don't know, it's not calypso, but it has this do feel to it, and it's okay. But I feel that the intro was setting it up for something that I thought I would like a lot more. This album here, I pulled off 4 songs that I like from it. And one of them, and again, I'm sorry, I cannot see the text this small on here. Still kind of a new thing for me. One of the songs in here actually has a Dire Straits feel to the music, which is really interesting. So yeah, I picked off 4 tracks from this album to go onto my playlist, which means that this is not one of my higher ranked albums, but it does sound really good. Also, I think I should point out that this album went to number 2 on the album charts, and no more singles from this point on reached number 1. The next couple of singles reached, I think, 5 or 6 and number 7, so in the top 10 still. So that is Majestic from 1983. The next album they released was called Presents, as in Princess Princess Presents, and it was a compilation album which went to number 3 on the charts. The band continued to release some singles, however the singles were sliding further and further down at least top 40 anyway. They were going into the 10s and the 20s, and near the end the last single actually landed in the 30s somewhere. Kaori and Tomoko released solo albums. Kanako also did a solo album too, but I'm afraid I don't know if that was before or after the band wrapped up. In 1995, the band decided that for various reasons they would retire Princess Princess. Album sales were not as much, singles were not going as high in the charts, there was talk about artistic direction, and Kaori said that in the younger days she felt that the songs just fell from heaven into her lap, and now songwriting was becoming a struggle for her. So they planned a final tour and released one final album, which was called The Last Princess. The album opens up like this, and it's just wide open blue sky, which kind of gives the impression that, you know, from here on, the future was in the clouds, it was in the sky, we don't know where they were going from there. That wrapped up the band. Now, this album here, I've heard it described as being more like an adult contemporary rock album. It's not particularly powerful, and true enough, the first time I listened to it, I thought, where's the fun? Where's the excitement? You know, the band used to do a blues track, a track with lots of saxophone or brass in it, or a ballad with an orchestra, or have a really cool guitar riff, or some great, like a piano bit in there somewhere. There was excitement and fun in the album, and here a lot of the tracks just feel more mellowed out and relaxed. Nevertheless, I actually did pick off 4 songs from this album. The opening one, Bye Bye, the opening track, Bye Bye, is actually rather pretty. And another one called Hello is also quite fun. I think once it starts and the acoustic guitar kicks in, I just really like that sound. It just makes me feel like this is a song I want to listen to. But it has to be Mawari Merry-Go-Round, which means the spinning merry-go-round. That is their one rockin' track on here, and curiously, it doesn't sound like Princess Princess. Princess Princess. We have all 3 girls singing the verses and choruses together. It almost sounds like another girls' rock band. There is one song on here that opens with some cool guitar, but goes into a kind of funky rap type song, and nice of them to try, but it doesn't win me over. And then the final track, Fly Baby Fly, is also quite a nice one. So 4 tracks from here that I picked off from my list, which I'm glad of anyway. None of the albums had fewer than 4 tracks go on the list, and some of the albums went up to, 8 tracks picked, or even the whole album, so pretty good. All right, so that is The Last Princess. So what happened thereafter? Well, you know, there were solo albums, there was collaborations with others, there were guest appearances, but Princess was wrapped up and done by 1996. They played their last 3 shows at the Budokan, 3 nights consecutively, which was a great way, I think, for them to finish up their final tour. However, in 2012, they regrouped and performed through to 2016. The main purpose, it seems, was to raise money for their concerts, to raise money to help victims of the earthquake and tsunami from back in 2011. So they played from 2012 to 2016. And at the end, the proceeds from their concerts, they raised 360 million yen, which at the current exchange rate comes out to $2.2 million US, which they donated to the city of Sendai and as well, I think, to some other donation organizations to help the victims of the earthquakes and the tsunami. Thereafter, members of the bands would appear at the Nao no Yaon female rock festival, which is sponsored or hosted by Shoya, Princess's contemporary band, which was more on the metal side, and we'll talk about them in the next video. In 2022, a movie which was called Diamond Story was a live movie that came out, and of course there's also some compilation album as well. There's been a few compilation albums come out. There was a box set of all of their singles on CDs, so I think that was 21 CDs, most of them featuring 2 tracks, one of them having 3. The band is just such a legendary band, particularly because they were so successful as an all-girls band. Now, was the success of Princess the reason why so many other all-girl bands started releasing albums there from 1989 into the early 1990s? Or was it just there's an overall cultural climate that found all-girl bands very exciting? People wanted to hear them, or I'm not sure what it was. How much could you say was thanks to the success of Princess? How much was it because of other factors? I'm not sure. But nevertheless, once Princess started hitting those, the #1 spot in the singles and albums charts, we started seeing band after band after band dropping albums. And new bands who formed put out albums within a year or so after formation, which was different from before, where a band could struggle for 5, 7 years or even more before finally getting their first record contract. So anyway, that concludes my run over of the Princess history and discography. If you stuck to the end, that's really great. If you're interested, I'm going to put some links to some videos of some of their songs and stuff in the description. Check them out if you like. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at the heavy metal counterpart, Princess Shoya. So if you're more interested in that, hope you'll stop by and watch that one. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Cheers.